2022
Well, are we
2022 meeting. Oh, hello?
are we letting the public in?
We haven't
Yep,
let them.
I'm letting them in right now.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'm going to start over.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the September 21st, 2022 meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District. Melanie, can you do roll call, please?
President Ryring,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Here.
Great. We have a quorum, and we'll start today's meeting with public comment. If anyone has a comment on an item that is not on today's agenda, please raise your hand and I will call on you in order.
Commissioner Ryring, I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you. I don't see anybody either. So we will move on to the consent calendar. Do any commissioners have items they would like to pull from today's consent calendar, or do I have a motion to approve?
I actually have my hand raised, President Myring. I'd like to pull items 6 and 7
Okay,
on the consent.
And I would like to pull 3, 4, and 5.
all right.
Motion to approve the balance.
Motion to approve the balance. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. I think you were first. So roll call, Melanie.
Oh, you need to take public comment.
Is there any public comment on the consent calendar items? I don't see any hands raised. And Commissioner Lorenz, you have your hand up. Is that an artifact?
It's left over. There you go.
Okay,
Okay.
great. And all right, so then Melanie, roll call on the remaining items of the consent calendar, which would be 1, 2, 6.
No, I pulled 6 and 7, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1,
And 2, I think.
1 and 2.
Commissioner Zemke,
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryring.
Aye. All right, thank you. We'll move on to the discussion items now. First discussion item is number 8, authorization to sign letter regarding parking exemption for Ocean Siders LLC. Mr. Pruitt, this is your item.
President, Commissioners, thank you and good afternoon. This item concerns a letter drafted from the Harbor District to the San Mateo County Planning Office. The letter addresses the use of parking lot C. On March 16th, 2022, the Harbor Commission approved a commercial activity permit for Seasider, now doing business as Ocean Cider, to operate on district-owned property located at the corner of Avenue Portola and Obispo Road. The El Granada location turned out to not be feasible due to multiple permitting issues, and Ocean Cider, working with myself and the Pillar Point Harbor Master, identified an alternative location in Pillar Point Harbor. The alternate location, as shown in the staff report, is west of parking lot C2, above Perch Beach, just south of Half Moon Bay Kayak Company. Ocean Cider's operation is low impact, will have a negligible impact on the wildlife in the wetlands or habitat located just to the south of this location. However, as required by the county permitting, Ocean Cider must have 5 parking spaces available for every seat planned for the establishment. Parking lot C has over 500 parking spaces with ADA accessible spots. The low impact from Ocean Cider parking will be a minimal based on the hours of operation. By the time each day that Ocean Cider would open, most fishermen have already parked and have a spot, with some already completing their day and leaving the lot. Because the parking lot is owned by the district, a letter is required authorizing Seasire to claim the district parking lot to satisfy the county requirement. Staff recommends granting the GM authorization to sign the letter attached to this staff report. And the recommended motion is authorize the general manager to sign the letter attached to the staff report, which address the County of San Mateo Planning and Building Department for Oceansiders LLC regarding parking exemption. And I stand by for any questions.
Great, thank you, Jim. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Chen Corrali, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Jim, just a quick question. It doesn't look like there's any fiscal impact. Is that correct?
There may be some physical impact because they will require a sewer hookup and potable
But
water
for
hookup.
the Harbor District, is there any fiscal impact for the Harbor District?
Once they're operating, it'll be a positive fiscal impact.
Right, okay, but not in terms of expenses on our end, like we're not waiving any fees or anything?
No,
Okay. I mean, I am happy to, whenever the discussion's done, I'd be happy to make a motion to authorize the GM to sign the letter, but I don't want to be premature about it.
Other commissioner comments or questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Lorenz?
I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this because I know the person that's the proprietor for Seasider. However, I will point out that an important consideration for the district is how this fits in with the coastal trail and some of the planning that
Well, I think if you're recusing yourself, you need to recuse yourself from comments too. So
Right,
I
fine.
appreciate that. Any other commissioner comments or questions? If not, Commissioner Chen Corrali, do you want to make that motion?
Sure, I will move to authorize the general manager to sign the letter addressed to the County of San Mateo Planning and Building Department for Oceansiders LLC regarding parking exemption.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
abstain.
President Ryring,
Aye,
Well,
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
that motion
oh,
carries.
wait, hold on. Just a procedural clarification for point of order. If Commissioner Lorenz has recused himself, he can't even abstain, correct?
Probably right.
I'm not trying to,
Trying to do the right thing.
no, I know, but the thing, and that's okay, but what I don't want is for this to look like he's voted on something that he is recusing himself from. Sorry,
Right.
Ed, I'm not trying to make
Tricia,
it
do you wanna
difficult, but
weigh
I
in
don't
on
want
this?
Ed to look like that he's conflicted, like by voting.
Tricia?
So I don't see any political reform act type of conflicts here. I think Commissioner Lorenz is just not weighing in just because he knows the other party. So he can abstain or recuse or however you want to show that. Or you could just show he's absent from this vote. We could just.
I don't want to compromise Ed is what I'm saying.
I'd like to weigh in on this interesting conversation.
All right, well, I think that this motion carries and then our minutes can
See,
reflect
did
whatever
we-
way is legally responsible.
President Ryring, did we take public comment on this?
Is there any public, I haven't seen any hands raised. Do we have any public comment on this agenda item?
President Ryring, I don't see any hands raised.
I don't either. All right, thank you. So we have, this motion carries. And we're gonna move on to agenda item number 9, district overtime costs, staffing, and Mr. Jim Pruitt, this is your item.
Again, good afternoon and thank you. The staff report is comprehensive, and I don't intend to read the entire staff report to you, but it does discuss overtime at both Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina that is used to cover shifts. It also talks about core hours of operation at Oyster Point Marina, and then also discusses one solution of adding 8 new deputy harbor masters to the positions. And it also talks about adding 3 new harbor workers as positions at the harbor district.
Right. Well, I'm
So-
sure this will engender a robust discussion.
It will. And so to continue on with that, the district has received 2 letters from the public, which have been sent to each of you and have been posted on our webpage with the agenda for this meeting. And we also received a letter from OE3, which has also been forwarded to you for consideration. Staff agrees with both Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association and the Coastside Fishing Club, the authors of this 2 letters. The Coastside does need 24/7, 365 a day search and rescue coverage, as well as maritime assist capabilities. However, the fact is that the district is not currently funded or staffed to provide either of these capabilities on a 24/7 basis. And that was the emphasis or theory behind the October 21st, 2021 report on SAR on the Coast Guard, which was presented to the board. We can provide search and rescue, and we can provide maritime assist when we're properly staffed, trained, and equipped to effect rescue or conduct maritime assist, and will be providing search and rescue and maritime assist during most daylight hours. But we simply cannot, based on current staffing levels, regardless of overtime, provide that service on a 24/7 basis. But let me start with the discussion of why now have I brought this up as a general manager. And the bottom line is for us is reducing overtime, which has resulted in a reduced level of service. This issue came to my attention after reviewing the payroll reports and noting some pay periods, which are 2 weeks, with overtime costs, the district in excess of 20,000, including one in excess of 30,000. I also noted that some members of our staff were standing shifts in excess of 12 hours a day, including 17-hour shifts. Staff was standing these extended shifts and incurring all this overtime to ensure that at least 2-person coverage was provided at the harbor and marina. To make sure and try to include the capability of executing search and rescue or maritime assist for 24 hours a day at Pillar Point and 17 hours at Oyster Point. Again, the district cannot afford to continue funding this overtime, and we cannot expect our crews to stand shifts in excess of 12 hours a day without a specific operational need. As noted in the staff report, the district has spent over $1.2 million in overtime in the past 4 years. This amount was unbudgeted and came out from the district's operational budget. And the money was covered by open positions, but still that's money that we could have used for other things. This is true. The overtime is true, even with the fact that the board added 4 additional deputy harbor masters in 2019, specifically to support search and rescue. As discussed in October 2021, the district cannot meet the goal of maintaining 2 search and rescue trained deputy harbor masters on shift at all time, on top of and in addition to a 3rd deputy harbor master, which would be required. Again, even with the unlimited overtime, we could not meet this goal. It's important to note overtime is authorized if there is a specific operational need for additional staff, such as Labor Day weekend, crab opener, salmon opener. So the harbor master does have authority to expend overtime if there is a specific operational need. The district can fully staff and equip both Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point with additional 8 deputy harbor masters. This would cost the district approximately $3.5 million in one-time costs and above $1 million in additional salaries on an annual basis. This is not funded, we are not funded for this, and unless additional outside funding is identified, staff does not recommend creating 8 new positions as deputy harbor master. Oyster Point Marina has also changed over the past several years from being a very isolated area with single point of access, which was totally controlled by the harbor district, to a modern, open, and accessible area where the district lacks any ability to control access. However, with this openness and access comes additional patrols by South San Francisco Police, eliminating the need for private security, and taking into consideration that all of the district facilities, docks and yard, and harbor master office are locked and secured each evening. With respect to limiting the operating hours at OPM to 12 hours per day is based on the fact that Oyster Point Marina is a marina. It is not a 24/7 operating fishing harbor like Pillar Point. There is no need to staff the marina on a 24-hour basis. Other marinas in the San Francisco Bay Area staff less than 8 hours a day, with some are closed on weekends. Others limit their hours on weekends. We're doing the same at Oyster Point effective January 1st, 2023 to 12 hours a day, which is significantly more than the average marina throughout the bay. By limiting the marina to 12 hours, we will eliminate and significantly reduce the requirement for overtime at OPM, and we'll be able to fully staff the marina during those 12 hours with deputy harbor masters and provide the ability for search and rescue and maritime assists. The final issue, as I started out with, is additional harbor workers. On several occasions during a shift, deputy harbor masters are called on to do the work that would otherwise be conducted by harbor workers, taking them off their duties as deputy harbor masters. In addition, there are only 2 harbor workers currently allowed at either facility. As a result, there are several hours a day and several days where the harbor work is not working at all, and the deputy harbor masters must fill in as a harbor master on top of their deputy harbor master duties. To correct this, staff is asking the board approve the addition of 3 new harbor worker positions, assigning 2 at Pillar Point and 1 at Oyster Point. This will significantly free up the deputy harbor masters. The average annual cost of a harbor worker is $79,000 or $239,000 for 3 new harbor workers a year. In summary, unless directed otherwise, and considering the current staffing levels and funding, the district is reducing overtime hours, which in turn reduces the availability of search and rescue and maritime assist services. This is in line with the board direction provided October 21st, 2021. For staff to safely and work-life balance, the district will not use overtime to cover gaps in the schedule unless an identifiable operational need requires it by the harbor master. This may result in some shifts being covered by only 1 deputy harbor master, reducing our availability to provide services to the public. Operational hours at Oyster Point Marina will be reduced to 12-hour shift effective January 1st, 2023. And the private security service will be canceled, saving the district $91,000 a year. Security contract alone. And finally, regardless of the above, the district needs additional harbor workers. Pillar Point requires 2 additional harbor workers, Oyster Point, 1 additional harbor worker. The recommended motions, and I'll repeat the issue and staff recommendation and then the motion itself. But I'm asking for the direction of general manager concerning, excuse me, option of approving 8 new deputy harbor masters positions for both Pillar Point Harbor and 2 at OPM. The staff recommendation, the district is not funded to support 8 additional positions at a cost of over $1 million a year. It is recommended that the approval of new deputy harbor master positions be contingent on locating outside funding to support it. But today, staff recommends the board pass the following motion, or to take the following action, I should say. Staff recommends the board take no action on this item. The second one, provide direction to general manager concerning the option of approving 3 new harbor workers positions, 2 for Pillar Point, 1 for OPM. Staff recommends approval, adding 3 new harbor worker positions at an annual cost of $239,000 with expected 8% increase per annum. And the motion that is recommended by staff, the general manager is approved to create 3 additional harbor worker positions and assign them as he sees fit for the betterment of the district. And I'm standing by for any questions by the board.
Thank you, Jim. And I think I open up discussion by the board. I see there is a hand raised in chat by Tim West Jr. So I'm going to ask for public comment first. Tim West Jr.
Go ahead, Tim, you should be able to speak now.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm a local resident, born and raised. Just a little bit about me because there's some new faces. I represented everybody in the Mavericks contest long ago when I was younger. I'm a local business in Princeton and a resident with my wife and soon to be son. I do water rescue when Mavericks is massive because I don't like to surf it anymore. I'm 42 and I don't want to die. But I do rescue because I do want to keep an eye on the local people in town and the visitors that come in. So I've seen a lot of stuff, and I do this based on myself. I'm not part of an organization or anything. I just fill up my gas tank and get out there, and I do rescue. So I'm still involved, and I like to be. But that being said, I definitely am affiliated with the guys that come and do rescue from the harbor. We get on the same channel. They have a boat. You know, if there's something that goes down, I know I can call them. So to short staff them or pretty much can the whole idea of the rescue guys coming out of the harbor doesn't sit well with me or many people that I know. Mavericks is one of the biggest waves in the world. So you have an ocean that you're supposed to take care of, as well as the land, like the workers you're talking about adding. But I would think this harbor is not similar to Oyster Point or any other harbor. It's one of the biggest, most craziest waterways in the world. So lastly, I'll end it with this. Mr. Pruitt, I never met you. You seem like a nice guy and I'd be happy to shake your hand, but you said, quote unquote, money that we could have used for other things. So tell that to the Mr. Morgan if they capsize just outside at Blackhand Reef, and go to the funeral and bring that quote there. You know, like I'm passionate about this. So my time's up, but I just don't think this is a good direction to go. And it would be nice for you guys to find alternative methods to maybe keep this rescue team alive. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another member of the public, Don Marshall, with your hand raised.
Yes, this is Don Marshall. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Don Marshall. I am a dual boat owner within the harbor. I'm a commercial crab, salmon fisherman. So I'm very familiar with the harbor. I've been here just about 15 years, full-time fishing, about 200 days a year on the water. Obviously, with that much sea time, I've definitely seen some incidents on the water. You know, when it comes to staffing, I really think about an incident that happened, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago while we were preparing for our commercial Dungeness season. What happened there was somebody tried to commit suicide on the yacht side of Fleur Point Harbor. Somebody tried to commit suicide by drowning. They tried to jump in the water and drown themselves. At the same time that was happening, there was a person in distress in the water on the beach, in front of Surfers Beach, in a boat sinking at the Green Can, the buoy, the navigational aid outside. And I just think that in that scenario, the fact that we had such good water rescue was the reason why there was no casualties and no injuries. And in the one case, I believe the one individual was able to get some help with his mental status. It's my belief that it doesn't matter how much money we're talking about here. It does not effing matter. Find the money. If it saves one life, if it saves one child from drowning, if it saves anybody from anything, it is absolutely the duty of the commission and of the county and its workers to make sure that everybody is safe and that there is no cost evaluation on that. We can cut somewhere else, but not there. That's my time.
Thank you. August Howell, you have your hand raised.
Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, August Howell here with the Half a Mayor Review. Just a quick question, point of clarification. I was wondering how many deputy harbor masters are staffed at Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina? Just kind of confused on some of the numbers there. I know there's been some additional hires in the last few years. So just wondering if I could get the totals on that. Thank you.
Mr. Howell, we're not able to respond to questions from the public, but that is something that you could call the general manager with your questions after the meeting. Shannon Welch, you have your hand raised.
Hi, my name is Shannon Welch. Can everybody hear me? Hi, I'm a mom. In the community, my son goes to Wilkinson, and I have a small 2-year-old here in El Granada. We've been a resident about 7 years. I take my kids to the beach often, most often on Saturdays and Sundays when the mass public is there at the beach. And I can tell you that I have seen a lot of close calls out there. People and parents and children aren't aware of the power of the ocean. And I think it's really important that there is rescue services nearby Surfers Beach because of the small children and the mass public that comes there. I can't even fathom why you would think that it would be okay to take away this service that is so needed for the public. We need this service. It has saved so many people's lives. If we're going to take away this service, how are you going to educate the public about the power of the ocean? And if you aren't going to have this service, where are you going to make up the difference? And how can you sacrifice people's lives by not having this service? And if one person dies because you guys need to save some money in the budget or you didn't budget for certain things, it's not worth it. And I can tell you that I stand behind a whole bunch of parents that are feeling the same way. And I only heard about this through the woodwork, and I can't believe that most of the public doesn't know about this. And I'm kind of outraged that it's even on the table. I think it should be a discussion, and I'm a person in the community that has children, and I plan to raise my children here, and my kids are going to surf here until they're older, and it needs to be here. So that's all I have to say.
You're on mute, Nancy.
I don't see any other hands raised, so at this time we will move on to commissioner discussion.
President Reiering, may I make one comment?
Yes.
I want to stress to the board that staff is not recommending that we discontinue search and rescue. or that we discontinue maritime assist. With cutting out overtime over on a regular basis is where we're going to make our savings. However, the harbor master, when it does get busy, does have the authority to call people in and use that overtime. But with the minimal staffing at night, we should be able to restaff during the day and have enough deputy harbor masters to do search and rescue during the day and during those 12-hour shift, and be able to respond to the different search and rescues. And considering search and rescue area where we can respond quickly is the area outside the harbor of Surfers Beach also. So no, I agree with Tim, Don, and Shannon. We need local search and rescue all the time. We need it 24/7, and we need it 365. However, the district's not funded for it, and we need to find outside funding to fund those positions. Standing by for any questions from commissioners.
Thank you, Jim. And I also want to say that the district, and I know all the commissioners, are as concerned as any member of the public about safety. When I was first elected, I was really stunned to learn about our search and rescue operations and how many lives they save. And I have just the utmost respect for all of them. At the same time, we're a public agency with limited funding sources and the lack of a mission statement to provide full-time 24/7 search and rescue. And the point of today's agenda is to discuss ways of going forward that provide us a way to continue with the Harbor District's mission and to afford the kind of search and rescue that Pillar Point needs. Are there partnerships that we can get involved in? Can the county provide more money? That's what we need to discuss today. So commissioners, I'll open it up to you. Commissioner Jane Corrali, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So Jim, really quickly, thanks for the report. And I've got a few things to say, but I do want to know the answer to the question about how many people are at OPM and at Pillar Point Harbor. If you can just answer that for me. And I have some other comments, significant actually.
John, if you can give the exact number, I know the general number, but not the exact.
Okay. Okay. So the way I am looking at this, I mean, this is, I'm beating a dead horse because this is something that I've cared about for.
Commissioner Crawley, John has those exact numbers. So if he can unmute and provide those exact numbers. John Moran, can you hear us? There we go.
Yeah, we've got 15 deputy harbor masters at Pillar Point and 12 at Oyster Point.
Thank you. So this is, it's an issue that I care deeply about, especially when we saw things happening during COVID, the crowds, and then Arune being swept out to sea. But the way I look at this is that there's a short-term situation, which I think the general manager is trying to fix, and then there's the long-term situation. This report, this issue was really brought up in its first report last year in October, I think, or November, when I was the board president. And thank you, Jim, for providing a very extensive report on the different levels of search and rescue and the training that's needed for that. So I think if we're looking at the long term and we're looking at a bigger picture situation, especially on the coast, we should probably look at partnerships with the county and or sheriff's office, which I think was in the report in October of 2021. But that's really not the issue that's at hand. I mean, no one wants to give up search and rescue. It's just a matter of overtime and the 24/7. And as I'd mentioned before, and I think it was in the October 2021 report, we have to deal with training. We have to deal with staffing. I mean, I'm on a fire board on the other side of the hill, and it's pretty specialized. And we have to look at so many different issues to provide a search and rescue or become a search and rescue organization, which will affect our cost, our training, and our personnel. So that to me is a long-term issue. The short-term issue of overtime is something that we have to be concerned about because it does affect our budget. $1.2 million over the last 4 years, I think, Jim, that's what annualized about $300,000 of unexpected finances that we've had to allocate to this. So if you're looking at your recommendation for a short-term solution, I mean, tell me if that would help, because I don't want to drop the bigger issue and the long-term problem that I think that we can solve on a macro basis. And I just want to make it clear, if my fellow commissioners did not receive the letter from OE3, that they thought that it was a little, well, we received a letter that it might be premature, and I'm wondering if they're thinking about the long term. But I'm breaking this situation up, this agenda item up between short term and long term. So Jim, I just don't want to drop the long term thing, the long term problem, and see what we can do in the future. But do you view this as a short, I don't want to say short term fix, but that might help us deal with the short term shortfalls?
This is we have the funding that we currently have, and I have to stay within that funding. And overtime costs of 30 and 20, so 50,000 a month, we simply can't afford that. So we need to figure out how can we provide search and rescue at the the height of the day when most people are out and doing their thing, and minimize the overtime from other times of day where it's not so busy. And so that's my thought on that.
Right, okay.
In the long term, I think we need to officially request funding from the county and funding from the sheriff's department to cover the additional personnel that we're required to do for that search and rescue.
Which would be 24/7, right?
Right, and that would be
Right.
24/7. And the watermen that we have at the district right now, our deputy harbor masters, there's nobody better. They're the best at what they do. And that was proven at Cal State Ranch Beach and multiple times in the last several years. So I have the utmost respect for the watermen that we have and the capabilities that they have, but I don't have the funding to fund 24/7 search and rescue and maintain a harbor. So that's what I'm trying to maximize the best time to staff the harbor to catch the peak times of the fishermen launching, the fishermen fishing, everybody on the beach, and then also search and rescue in the West Coast region, which we're part of a system in which the sheriff has responsibility for search and rescue, the fire department has search and rescue, the California Highway Patrol and the state lifeguards have search and rescue. But then overall, the United States Coast Guard has responsibilities. So, and they're all charged to do that. The district is charged to run a harbor. And we've taken on this responsibility for SAR. And I think it was the right thing to do. And we have become the elite agency on the coast side to effect search and rescue. So we definitely need to go out and try to find that additional funding so that we can provide that service year round. I don't want to send our deputy harbor masters out on a rescue and leave the harbor open, because who's going to be in the background to rescue the rescuers if they get in trouble? We don't have that capability now. We need that capability for the safety of staff and the safety of the individuals we're trying to rescue.
So Jim, can I, if I may, Nancy, I just don't want to lose my thought on this. So basically, it sounds like what you're proposing will not compromise what we've normally been doing. Is that correct? In terms of peak times?
Correct. During the peak times, we'll do all efforts to fully staff so we can have the search and rescue capabilities and the maritime assist. It's just in the evenings and overnight, not a lot of activity occurs, and we can't staff it overnight right now with 3 people.
Right, and so this is gonna be the difference, just so I'm clear, between being a full search and rescue organization, kind of like an emergency response agency such as a fire district or fire department versus what we're doing now. That's why I was thinking that the long-term, look at the long-term research and due diligence would be on a more of a SAR organization, but what we're doing now would not compromise the safety of residents, at least during the peak times, which is
That is my belief.
okay.
And as it
thank
is
you.
now, the way it works is either the sheriff or the Coast Guard will call us and ask if we're available to launch on a search and rescue, and we say yes or no based on our staffing levels and if we are properly trained and equipped to do that rescue. If all those are yes, then we can go out and do it. If we say no, there's other organizations that can respond, but not as quick as we can. And
Right,
the
so
issue
that's
is-
right, well, and I'm gonna add not at the same quality level as well. I mean, we are, our harbor patrol crew are second to none in terms of water rescue. And so what I just want to make sure is if there's something that happens in the middle of the night that, I don't want the service to be compromised, but I understand that the whole situation with overtime, I'm less concerned about that I'm less concerned about that than I am about the training and the backup. I mean, just knowing, because I'm on a fire district board and I see this with an elite team of emergency responders. I just want to make sure that our harbor patrol crew are equipped and trained at the best level, highest level. But I don't want to, Jim, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to delay looking at partnerships for additional funding. And, we can maybe this is not going to end, this discussion is not going to end today. But I think that in the short term, if we can take care of just keeping our high level of service during the peak times and continue the conversation for the long-term solution, I would be fine with that, but I don't want to lose the long-term discussion. I think that's all I have to say, President Reiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners? We do have more members of the public who'd like to speak. If you don't mind, Commissioners, I'm going to invite the public back in. Don Marshall, you have your hand raised.
Hello, it's Don Marshall. Can you guys hear me again?
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'm not understanding. How is it that 6 new harbor masters is cheaper than the current overtime? Maybe I'm not understanding it completely, because it seems like they want to. It sort of sounds like, maybe I'm wrong, but it sort of sounds like they want to cut hours, but they don't want to cut the services of the water rescue and the safety part of it, which I agree with. But I'm not understanding how additional harbor workers and more deputy harbor masters, even if they're not getting the overtime and they're getting less hours, how that could possibly overtake, the current overtime and other things that we have going on. If it was possible to maybe clarify, that'd be wonderful.
So Tricia, in an instance like this, in which a question might be important for the public to hear, is that something that we can ask Jim to respond to, because the commissioners can't respond to these kinds of questions?
Sure, I think it's fine for the commissioners to direct the general manager to respond to questions that you find helpful in analyzing the issue.
Jim, I think it would be helpful. I also think there are some misunderstandings regarding what we're talking about here and the difference between the two marinas. So if you could address the comments of the last speaker? That'd be helpful.
Yes, I'd be happy to. And again, thank you, Greg. Thank you for the question. Hiring 8 new deputy harbor masters is by far more expensive than paying the overtime. That's why we can't hire the new, and we need the 8 new harbor masters to fully staff 24/7. But we can't afford it, so we have to do something different right now. And that difference is trying to fully staff during the peak times to allow to provide that service of search and rescue and maritime assist, and not during non-peak times. So hopefully that answers your question. So that your basic question is, why is it more expensive? Yes. And that's why staff is not recommending it, because we don't have that money, that $1 million a year to pay for that additional staff.
Thank you for that. Oh, we have another member of the public with their hand raised, John Ullum.
Thank you, President Rearing. This is kind of a sad situation that's been allowed to develop over decades of mismanagement that have been perpetuated by both Commissioner Jane Corrali and Commissioner Tom Matoush. The reason that you're talking about this is because you don't have enough money. That's it. You're talking about reducing safety at your harbor, which is a working man's harbor, where people get up at 3 in the morning and go out and fish. And you don't think you have enough money to run a proper operation. So now you're going to cut it back to more in-service hours. So some questions for the harbor master, or for the manager, I should say. What are the peak hours for fishermen? I'm talking about the guys that make a living, guys that get up and go out there and work, all hours. And I'm wondering, when is it that they're not out there that you're going to not be able to provide any help for them? And also, let's make it clear, there is no close help when it comes to the Pillar Point. There is no Coast Guard station nearby. If somebody gets in trouble and they're going out there at midnight or 2 in the morning or whatever, who's going to respond? What would be effects of that? And then if maybe the manager could, explain, the difference between a harbor and being on the ocean, and it's, like I said, people who make a living off the ocean there, versus a marina like you have over at Oyster Point, which doesn't really have any working people.
So, Commissioner comments. I think Commissioner Zemke, you had your hand raised.
Yes, I did. I did want to thank Virginia for the comments that she had. Very well thought out. I appreciate you doing that. And I agree with her that the long-term solution, and I'm sure Jim is of the same mind, that we need to kind of pursue that as quickly as possible. And to me, this isn't really reducing the level of service that we currently provide, which is during daytime hours, during the times that these services are most needed. What we're talking about is securing more of the 24/7. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I mean, this might not be the moment for it. I do think that we need to proceed and consider staff's proposed motions, but there are a lot of different ways that the commission can look at increased funding, some of which would possibly involve us raising our rates. Commissioner Lorenas, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I'll try to not ramble too much on this. Well, first of all, this has been a problem of our own creation in many ways. In the positive way, going back to when the Harbor District was first formed, our Harbor Patrol, even back then, had a strong history of search and rescue because there was no one else on the coast to do it. And we've just gotten better. Our personnel have gotten better over the years and they continue to get better. And so we've created that problem because now the public expects it from us. And I think it's a good thing. We've evolved a lot and we're going to continue to evolve. Secondly, on the financial side, I agree with some members of the public. We've kind of done that to ourselves. And I know I've said this a million times, our relationship with South San Francisco and the money we spend at Oyster Point has a lot to do with it. And we've had meetings where we've discussed the cost of our MOU at Oyster Point. So I won't belabor that. But I will say that this is an opportunity to go back and discuss with our folks at Oyster Point and South San Francisco how we might rearrange the finances we have with them. With respect to our general manager's report, I don't disagree with you, Jim, but I do think that maybe posing it as an either or is not exactly the best way to present it to the public. Search and rescue happens, or the need for search and rescue can happen at any time. When there are more people using the facilities, of course, the probability goes up. But the probability of problems arising in the evening doesn't necessarily go down to zero. And I'd say that it's more dangerous to operate a boat out at night. So the probability of having a problem is greater. And I've seen many times, the latest version of this is some folks in coming from San Francisco on a sailboat, coming down the coast, not that unusual weather, moderate winds, kind of mixed seas, coming too close to the shoreline, hit a rock in Moss Beach at the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. They called the Coast Guard called our harbor office, and our team went out there, and I watched them because I live in Moss Beach, watched them very carefully negotiate the reefs, throw some lines out, and get them to the harbor safely. That happened to be during the daytime, but that could easily happen at night. So my point of that is that I think we should find a way to continue the search and rescue potential for Pillar Point, even in the quote off hours, until we find a permanent solution. We've been doing that for quite a while now, so I'm a little, I understand that overtime is a problem, and I also understand that we, and I think, Jim, you've done a good job of articulating this, that we can't just send out one person driving a boat to go do search and rescue because that's too dangerous for staff. So one of the things that was not said directly is that staffing needs with respect to search and rescue it's not just about having someone available to go out, it's also having the crew available to safely go out. But up until now, it's my understanding that's what we've been doing, and we've been suffering the overtime charges. So I'm not in support of shutting down the operation to save some money. I'd rather find a way in our budget to support it until we find a permanent solution. And I'd also like to see a more detailed discussion with with OE3 as they requested, and a public discussion so that the folks that may depend on search and rescue, our public, have a clear idea, a very clear idea of what we're doing and why we're doing it. I'll leave it there.
We have some members of the public with their hands raised. Mavericks Rescue.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I've been working with the Pillar Point Harbor Patrol for nearly 28 years now. Like Commissioner Lorena said, they've just gotten better and better. I've trained with them. Our team has trained with them over the years, and I'm not exactly sure the details of what's going on here, but limiting any sort of rescue, want them to be there. It would be a grave mistake, in my opinion, in our team's opinion, because it's just so important to have them there 24/7. Like I said, I think someone just said there should be more public discussion on this so we can get more of the details. We just found out about this a bit yesterday, so just wanted to get our support out there in support of the Pillar Point Harbor Patrol to be on staff 24 hours a day, no matter how it happens. You know, as a taxpayer, I want it to happen. So thank you.
And Shannon Welch.
Okay, hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe not. Shannon, I think we're
Can you-
having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. So I spoke earlier and I keep listening, and the peak hours have yet to be defined. It hasn't been clear how they have been defined. And also if they're going to be seasonal, because the hours change. I think that if you were to make a motion right now, and we didn't hear from the public, that it would just be, you know, it would be unfortunate, because to cut the hours and to put the public put the public that is directly affected by you cutting the hours and then this public is the public that elected each and every one of you to the board. I just think it's a little early, and I think that we got to go back to management and propose something else. So thank you.
We have a member of the public with their hand raised, but they've already commented on this item, and our policy is one comment per member of the public. Commissioner Matoush, I see your hand raised.
President Reiering,
Yes.
just to be consistent, we have provided other people opportunities to speak twice. So it'd be follow what we've started tonight. We should, my recommendation is that you allow Mr. Olin to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt, but I don't recall that I have allowed two members of the public to speak twice. If I have, forgive me, because recently in conversation with our legal counsel, we are really trying to be consistent on this matter. And so I've tried to keep track of who I have let speak, and perhaps.
Yeah, just a recommendation. You're the president of the board. It's your decision. I just wanted to make you aware.
All right.
Yes, I agree with the general manager, and you have, and so we need to be consistent at this point.
So who did I let speak twice?
Mr. Marshall and Miss Welch.
On this matter?
Yes.
Well, my bad. All right, John Ellum, you get a second shot at that here.
I'm going to speak to you directly, Mr. Zemke. Do you now understand how this board works? Some people get their questions answered. Sometimes the staff or even board president will ask staff to answer questions she wants answered. But when other people ask questions she doesn't want answered, she blows them off and uses the rules to make sure that she can. She constantly does this, and it does it specifically to people who disagree with her. She allows people she agrees with to speak to items more than once, and then has to be reminded that the other people deserve the same courtesy. She needs to be reminded that she asked the manager, Mr. Pruitt, to respond to questions from the public, but then she refuses to give him the opportunity to respond to my questions. And then she does everything she can. She pushes back against even Miss Corrali when it comes to explaining that she's screwing up the way she runs her meetings. She's putting the district at risk of another investigation by the DA because she treats people differently. And the reason she does that is she's an elitist. She does not see herself as being on the same level as the peons that happen to participate in her meeting. And I don't get why you all put up with it, especially you, Mr. Zemke, and you, Mr. Lorenas. Why are you not calling this out? She consistently does this. She treats members of the Republic differently depending on whether she likes them or not. This is totally wrong. This is not how we do things in America. And I wish somebody would explain to the president that maybe she needs to watch herself on video and see how she comes off and how she acts.
Jim, before we move to the next speaker, I wanted to ask if you might want to respond to one of the previous members of the public who was questioning staffing time during holidays and events, which we have always covered. But if you wouldn't mind addressing that.
During holiday weekends, the harbor master has the discretion if he or she believes that we need additional staff to use overtime to cover those. So the harbor master, watching the level of activity or expected activity, has the authority to use that overtime. And if I could, President Reiering, I want to bring the board back to get the right screen. I apologize. The decision to cut overtime, as I've already made that decision under my authority as general manager. And so I proceeded down that road. But of course, the board can always direct me otherwise, but that direction is not directly on this agenda. The two things that are on the agenda for the board to decide on which support are related to the overtime and related to the hours are, because I've decided, as general manager also decided to cut the hours at Oyster Point. The two motions are concerning the hiring of 8 new harbor masters to cover those shifts. And again, the staff's recommendation was not to take no action on that item because we don't have the $1 million a year to pay those salaries right now. And provide direction to the general manager concerning the option of approving 3 harbor masters. And the motion was, the recommended motion was the general manager is approved to create the 3 additional harbor worker positions and assign them as he sees fit for the betterment of the district. Again, that would free up the deputy harbor masters to be able to continue their duties as deputy harbor masters. So the discussion on search and rescue has been fantastic. And again, I support 24/7 search and rescue. And to solve that would be to hire 8 new people. But again, we don't recommend that. And we need to seek those funds elsewhere as discussed. And then hire 3 new people. I apologize if I didn't make that clear.
Thank you, Jim. I think it is really clear, and I'd like to just direct the council or the commission and any members of the public who are able to be online right now to page 9 of the staff report. There are 4 potential actions with staff recommendations, the 2 that Jim just repeated. And then a third would be providing direction to the general manager concerning use of overtime to cover shifts at Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina. And the 4th is providing direction to the GM regarding core hours of operation at Oyster Point. So if you want to kind of get some clarity on what the actual motions are that staff is recommending today, please do take a look at those. And Mavericks Rescue, you have your hand raised.
Hi there again, this is Frank from Mavericks. Did have the chance, thank you for that. I did a little research and it was just one question is what and where does the $7 million, approximately $7 million of taxpayer money go every year that's given to the Harbor District? That first question. And the second one is why, just in my own opinion, why isn't overtime budgeted in the first place, like anywhere else? That's my second question. And the third is because there is so many agencies that rely on the Harbor Patrol, like you said, when the Coast Guard gets a call or 911 gets a call, it gets, rerouted to the Harbor Patrol. How are they going to be notified, that they're not on duty, or they're not, they're understaffed, or they can't support this? So that's just a few questions I had, and maybe you guys can address those. It'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Jim, is there anything in those questions that you'd care to respond to?
The questions concerning the budget can be discussed or can be found in our budget, which is posted online. And that details where every dollar that we receive, both from enterprise fund and from taxes, is spent. With respect to not budgeting for overtime, that's a budget decision that we've made in order to balance our budget based on the funding that we receive.
Thank you. And Commissioner Matoush, you have your hand raised.
So I'm totally supportive of trying to find additional funds, be it from the county, be it from South San Francisco, be it from law enforcement budgets, anywhere we can get money. But it seems like it wouldn't be prudent to start with the 8. Personally, I'm going to support going with the 3. I think that we've got to take these things incrementally and then just pay attention to our workloads and work with our staff. I'm hearing an awful lot about people saying we're going to lose coverage. We've got coverage. We've done our best, and we're not setting out to plan to not have any. I know it's a little oxymoronic, but we've got to do this responsibly and fiscally responsible as well. So I'm going to start out supporting the 3 additional hires and know that our staff is seeking additional funds from numerous sources to try and increase our budgetary performance.
Are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion to support the 3-person hiring as an interim step towards our budgetary process. I'm probably not saying that right because I'm not reading off my pieces of paper.
I'll second that. But I also want to add something when we're discussing.
Well, we have a motion and a second, and we have a member of the, we have Commissioner Lorenas, you have your hand raised. Oh, you're muted, Ed.
Sorry. So I agree with the hiring the 3 new positions, but I also with this I would add on to this. I suggest that we add on to this motion, asking our general manager to come back with a discussion on, in more detail, like I said before, and work with us and the public on maintaining 24/7 search and rescue while we're looking for a long-term solution. Right now, we've been using overtime, and maybe that is the solution, but I think this warrants a discussion with our OE3 partners and the public. So I'd like to see that happen before we shut it down in the evening hours, which is what it sounds like the plan is right now.
Jim, can I ask you, of the 4 recommended motions, which is the one that's most critical to stop the fiscal bleeding? I'm sorry, you're muted.
As written in the staff report, the recommendation is to support the general manager's decision to reduce overtime and allow single shift coverage and limited search and rescue maritime assist availability. It's more of an awareness thing for the board and the public, and also to support my decision to limit shifts to no more than 12 hours without a specific operational need. Again, if there's an operational need, we'll move forward. The second one is support the general manager's decision to reduce hours of operation at Oyster Point Marina to 12 hours. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is suggested, but it could be 7 to 7, working with the harbor master and with the public at Oyster Point. Provide the direction general manager concerning the option of approving a new deputy harbor master, 8 new deputy harbor masters. Again, we don't recommend that due to the price. And then finally, provide additional harbor workers. And I can read those motions for you to allow for the hire of 3 new harbor workers. So which one's most important? I think all 4 of them are in support of stopping the bleeding. And then the final one is important to allow harbor masters to free up their time to do harbor master work versus harbor worker work. Say that fast twice.
So is that from OE3, Jim, what you just mentioned? I mean, like the workers in that particular union?
This would be 3 new members of OE3, if that's your question.
Well, no, my question is, I mean, I know that the letter that came in from them, or the email that came in from them, they wanted to have more of an in-depth discussion. I mean, have you talked to them about these recommendations that you're presenting?
I have not specifically talked to them about my recommendations. I've been working with the harbor masters.
Okay, but they're part of OE3.
The harbor master is not.
Oh, the harbor master. Okay, I thought, never mind. That's Chris Tibby, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if there's anyone from OE3 even on, I don't even know who's, if I would, and maybe this is the wrong place to have someone speak, but I would love to get their viewpoint on this at some point. Maybe not today, but whenever.
So if I understand correctly, Jim, you are really asking the commissioners to take a good hard look at all of your recommended motions.
Yes, and again, 1 and 2, I've already made those decisions.
Yeah.
And with respect to the 2 final ones is the 8 additional deputy harbor masters to fully staff it 24/7. And then the second one was the motion for 3 new harbor workers.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that, Jim? So if we move, we do have a motion on the table for the 3 additional harbor worker positions. If in the longer term, we need to expand that, and would those 3 be in addition to the 8 for a total of 11? Or would that
Yes.
be, okay, so, and that, it's not just 8 total, we would literally have 11 versus just 8 for the longer term possibility. Okay, thank you.
And if I could restate that motion for you, so it
Yes,
covers our legal issues. Bring up I forgot the appropriations for it. So that motion for 3 additional harbor workers would be: the general manager is approved to create 3 new additional harbor worker positions and assign them as he sees fit for the betterment of the district, and increase appropriations to fund the 3 positions from working capital.
and that's the one that has a second, that was the one that Commissioner Matoush made and I seconded,
Yes.
right, Tom?
Correct. And I was just going to add, at this point in time, I'm going with the 3, and I'd like to drop the 8 from consideration at all from this meeting.
From this current meeting, Tom, and not for the future? I
From
think
this-
those are 2 different things.
Well, on one hand, it's not, because we don't have the funding at this time. And it's a lot of people in the background will be looking for additional funding sources. There's no use talking about this now until we find funding.
Right, but there's only one motion on the table right now.
Well, perhaps we could call for the question.
Well, there are more public comments. There's one person that we haven't heard from. I would like to hear from that person too. And I
And
think,
Commissioner Lorenz has his
right,
hand raised. So I think what we're going to do right now is we do have a motion and a second from you, Commissioner Matoush, and we will get around to voting on that. And I do want to call on Commissioner Lorenz, and there's a member of the public with their hand raised who has not spoken yet. So Commissioner Lorenz.
Thank you. A couple of questions. Again, I don't see this as either or, and it's much more complicated than we even have it before us. And so question I have for our general manager is, why can't we, as another potential option, reduce the hours at Oyster Point Marina? And I think 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., whatever staff thinks is appropriate. I would go with that, but also reduce those hours and then fund the recommended positions to allow for more staff at Pillar Point Harbor. It's a bit of a hybrid of the 2. We'd save money by reducing the staff at Oyster Point, and we would gain staff at Pillar Point. Why can't we do that? And the other is just a comment on the entire situation. Is one thing I would remind all of us is that this is, as is obvious in this meeting, this is a very highly visible function of the Harbor District. And we need to keep that in mind when we have these discussions. And so I think it would serve everyone well if we had an opportunity for the public and for our partners, for the folks that are actually working for the district, OE3, to have a discussion so that the public is aware of how and why we make the decisions that we're making. I don't want to second guess your rationale, Jim, but I think it's the public would, and we would be best served by having a discussion about this with all the details.
President Reiering, if I could respond?
Yeah.
Lorenz, that's bullet point number 2, reduce the hours at Oyster Point. So I've already made that decision.
Okay.
And effective January 1st, 2023. I wanted to do it on the calendar year and mid-budget, not necessarily now, and also get people get used to it, of the idea. And then as opposed to staffing at Oyster Point, that's going to be a conversation with the harbor master and assistant harbor master on how to staff Oyster Point to ensure that they can do both the search and rescue and also the marina. And again, the marinas, in my opinion, is much different than the harbor. The marina is on the bay where there's several other search and rescue providers available. And sending a boat out with 2 members on it without any backup from the marina would be appropriate due to the multiple other agencies in the area that can launch and assist if we get in trouble, especially with the Coast Guard having rescue stations in the bay and several other sheriff's departments and fire departments. On the coast side, it's much different. And I've explained that, I believe, but going back to reducing hours and shifting personnel, that will have to be after the harbor master and assistant harbor master look at their staffing and figure out how they're going to staff Oyster Point Marina. If there's extra billet, then we can move it over to Pillar Point. But again, those are discussions I would have to have with the union.
Thank you, Jim. We have a member of the public who hasn't spoken yet. Jack, you have your hand raised.
Hey, Commission, it's Jacob Walding, longtime officer here with the district. And I wanted to bring up a few things with you. I got to go fast because I only have a couple minutes. Nice to hear we're moving to 12-hour shifts at Oyster Point. We were unaware of that, that was actually happening. That in itself will be a cause of contention for union issues as it impacts staff's life dramatically, guys that have worked certain shifts for long periods of time. Moving on from that, because I've got to be fast. Officer safety is a concern that I have not heard voiced here in this forum. And with the 12-hour max on shift limits that have been implemented on us, we have had to work several shifts at solo coverage. Solo coverage doesn't just reduce search and rescue and the safety of patrons that utilize our facilities. It also places officers in grave danger. It puts them on where they have no backup. They have nobody to call if they're hit over the head and knocked unconscious, or they have some sort of medical emergency themselves and fall in the water or something like that. And that's a huge issue. I can't believe that it hasn't been brought up. And 3 DHMs on duty at Pillar Point, you know, that's a great reach. I mean, we want to have 3 DHMs. We want to have 6. But in the world we live in, the last 30 years of search and rescue at Pillar Point, we've only had 2, and we've never had anything happen. Nothing major. Nobody's been seriously hurt. We haven't lost a boat. We've lost a few RWCs, but that's been daytime hours. And furthermore, you know, reducing it and saying that the public has to be, or that the harbors have to be staffed at the most opportune times or daylight hours, it's absurd. You know, whether it's commercial fishermen leaving out of Oyster Point, going fishing for halibut or whatever, people get into trouble at all times of the day or night. Also worth noting with my last few seconds, all overtime at the district is voluntary. Guys don't have to work it if they feel like they're working too much. So I'm sorry that I'm running over my time. I do have a lot more comments, but these are just a few right off the top of my head. And this really, all of these motions that you guys are putting into place, it's premature.
Great. Commissioner Lorenz, your hand is still up. Is it still up?
Oops.
Commissioner Pancrell, your hand is still up.
There you go.
I just raised my hand. I actually did bring up officer safety, harbor patrol crew safety when it came to looking at a 24/7 kind of SAR organization, and that's one of the reasons that I was not. I mean, I'm looking at the long-term solution or long-term opportunities, because I do think that is a big deal. firefighters and other emergency responders have one or two, well, I mean, at least two people, multiple people actually, working together just for that purpose, to make sure they are safe. So I just want to make that very clear, that that is something that I have also been concerned about.
Thank
But it
you.
sounds like, Jim, that OE3 is thinking that these two are combined. And I'm just saying that we can take one now and then continue the conversation for the other 8 for the longer term solution.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Thank you. I just have a point of order question. I think that's what you might call it. Is on the staff recommendations, it says to provide the general manager concerning core hours of operation at Oyster Point Marina. Staff recommendation is to support the general manager's decision. If we don't include that in this motion that Tom made, then is that by implication that we're not supporting it? Or if taking no action, how does that work? Maybe Chris, you can clarify.
Well, and this, I appreciate Jim's input, but I think Jim had the power to make those decisions. I think he brought it to you for your comment and support. I don't think that the failure to approve it today means you don't support it. It's just you haven't voted to provide the support today. But, look to Jim, because he was the one who wrote the motion and asked for the direction.
Be great to have the support, or I'm okay with nothing from the board today, and I made the decision, and I can be responsible for that decision.
Well, I guess my point is I'd like to give you that support, but we can't do it unless we add it to that motion, because just the way it's written.
It could be several motions, Commissioner Lorenz. The one motion right now is the addition of 3 additional harbor workers.
Okay.
And then the 3 other issues can be taken one at a time. You're muted, President Ryrie.
I think that's the direction that we should go, unless anyone here is not ready to vote on the first motion that has been made by Commissioner Matoush and seconded by Commissioner Chang Crawley. And then we can move on and see if there are any further motions. How about a show of hands here?
Well, hold. Okay. So that's going to be, I'm looking at the potential actions, right? That's going to be bullet point number 4.
Yes.
Which, correct, right? That's the current motion. I am a little sympathetic. So then where, okay, go on. I'm just a little sympathetic to I just want to understand just the safety of the crew too, and how that would work with the additional 3.
The additional 3 are harbor workers and not necessarily provided for safety of the harbor. They're there to make sure it's sanitary, clean, and looks appropriate. And then the harbor masters have their own description of duties that they carry out. The 1-person staff member at night, there is a risk there, and we just simply can't we don't have the personnel to cover all our shifts that we have. So to cover all the shifts that we have, we need to have additional harbor masters approved. The 17-hour shifts or the 16-hour shifts, having somebody who works that long called out at the last hour may not be fit to go do that rescue based on working 17 or 16 hours. So for the safety of the crew, the safety of the harbor masters is why the general rule for limiting it to 12-hour shifts. Now, if there's an operational need that extends that 12-hour shift beyond the 12 hours, the harbor master has the authority to do that. But it should not be the norm, it should be the exception.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that our workers are safely covered too. I just know being on a fire board that, just making like working in teams is the preferable working environment.
Concur, and I agree with you 100%. It's our goal always to have the two on shift, and we'll continue to strive for that goal. But due to training, PTO, and other issues, we may not have enough deputy harbor masters to fill all those shifts.
So how are we gonna keep track of the possible need for coverage in the future? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just want to make sure that, they're safe too. And if we don't have enough, I mean, I don't want to do a Band-Aid on this issue either. I just want to make sure that if we can get coverage at some point, that they're going to be safe. I'm not against doing the voting on the motion. I just want to make sure that that we have coverage, safety coverage for our employees.
And again, that will be the goal of the district, to do that.
But that's different from the 24/7 issue.
That's even with two people in the harbor, you cannot respond to search and rescue or maritime
Right.
assist
Right.
outside the harbor, which includes the harbor waters off of Surfers Beach.
Right. Okay.
But responding beyond that, we need backup, or we need support from that third person back at the harbor to track and keep track of our assets.
Okay.
I know the sheriff does it, but we should do it as the harbor patrol.
Thank you, Jim.
Again, it's our goal to have at least two on shift at all times. And we can achieve that a lot of the times, but there's some times where we will not be able to. You're on mute, President Ryan.
I don't want to stop the discussion on the full panoply of issues that we are considering right now, but I do want to call the question on the motion that has been made and seconded. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. So Melanie, roll call on calling the question.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Great. So Melanie, you can take a roll call on the motion that was made by Commissioner Mathush. Do you need that to be repeated?
Are you speaking to
Melanie?
Commissioner Mathush?
Melanie, I'm asking you if you need the motion repeated. I'd
Oh, okay,
like you to do roll call for the motion that has been made and seconded.
sure.
I'll repeat the motion. The motion as I read it earlier was the general manager is approved to create 3 new additional harbor workers positions and assign them as he sees fit for the betterment of a district, and is authorized to increase appropriations to cover the cost of the 3 new positions with existing working capital.
Commissioner Lorenz,
I'm sorry, can we put a dollar figure in there? Because the budget will require a transfer for that.
then the last sentence to increase the appropriations by the amount of $239,454 and fund that through existing working capital. Is that good, Julie?
Yeah, but where is that in the staff report? Did I miss
Yes,
that? in
thank
the
you.
Staff report?
I did not put that appropriations language in. I'm adding it now.
Can
That
you
was my-
please repeat yeah, I didn't
That was
see
my
that
error.
in here. I'm sorry. Can you please repeat that dollar amount? I didn't see it in the staff report and now I know that it wasn't in there.
Oh, the amount has been in, the amount is in the staff report. It's just I didn't put it in the recommended motion. And that amount is $239,454.
Oh, here, okay. I heard the wrong number. Yeah, I heard the wrong number. Sorry, I see that here, but never mind. I was getting it mixed up with the 8 additional, but I see that in here. Thank you. Thanks for that. So the motion, can you just repeat the motion one more time, just so that Melanie has it and Julie has it from the finance department's perspective?
The general manager is approved to create 3 additional harbor worker positions and assign them as he sees fit for the betterment of the district, and to increase appropriations in the amount of $239,454 to be funded with existing working capital.
So Commissioner Mateusz is okay with that, I hope, I think.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm okay with that second.
Okay, so we've made that modification to the motion and the second. So roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Changarelli.
Aye.
Great, and now we'll continue discussion. There are 3 other potential motions that perhaps we can look at one at a time, if that's easier. Maybe we could start with looking at number 2, which is providing direction to the general manager concerning core hours of operation at Oyster Point Marina. The staff recommendation is to support the general manager's decision to reduce the hours at that location only to 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and to cancel the private security contract.
I will make that a motion.
I will second that. Is there any discussion? Then roll call, Melanie.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Changarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes.
Great, that motion also carries. We have 2 more potential actions with regard to staff recommendations. Would anyone like to make a motion concerning either one of them?
I will make a motion that the board concurs with the general manager's position on the use of overtime as outlined in the staff report.
Well, that's not an actionable motion. I mean, what, concurrence?
The potential actions are on page 9 of the staff report.
Unfortunately, I didn't have that in front of me.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to can I just a point of clarification, Nancy?
Yes.
We're looking at the other 2 bullet points. And
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing and that we're all looking at the same thing. One is to, is that correct?
I believe that so the second bullet point under potential actions on page 9 was to provide direction regarding core hours of operation. And we have confirmed and voted on that. So Commissioner Zemke, your potential motion is regarding, do you mind repeating it?
Well, I guess the gist of it is to support the clarification of the use of overtime as presented by our general manager.
So that's bullet point 1.
would be bullet point one. It's basically the provisions is outlined on page 5 and 6 of the staff report.
Okay, let me look at that.
Right, but it's to prove, okay, so let me just read bullet point 1 so that members of the public can hear what it is that we're discussing, which is provide direction to the general manager concerning use of overtime to cover shifts at Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina.
Right.
And so the staff recommendation is to support the general manager's decision to reduce overtime and allow for single staff coverage and limited search and rescue / maritime assist availability, and to support the general manager's decision to limit shifts to no more than 12 hours without a specific operational need.
Right.
And so I'm just a little confused, Bill. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just trying to understand what you want to do with this particular bullet point.
All I'm trying to do is basically support the clarifications that the general manager has already made.
Okay.
I will second Commissioner Zemke on that support.
Great. Is there any discussion? If not, Melanie, we'll move on to roll call.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
No, for reasons already stated.
President Ryring.
Aye. That motion carries. So Jim, would you mind kind of walking us through the potential actions with staff recommendations and what remains that you'd like to see us discuss this evening?
You voted on bullet points 1 and 2.
Mhm.
The only remaining bullet point is bullet point 3. And that's provide direction to the general manager concerning the option of approving 8 new deputy harbor master positions, 6 positions at Pillar Point, and 2 new positions at OPM. Staff's recommendation is that the board take no action on this. The district is not funded to support the 8 additional positions, and that's it. That's the end of that. So
Great.
we're not funded, and you take no action.
Thank you, Jim. So we can move on from this agenda item.
Well,
Commissioner,
no, I want to make it clear. Yeah, thank you. So Jim, I understand that we won't take action on this, but this for me is part of the longer term solution. So I don't want this to be off the table just because we're not talking about this right now in the short term. That doesn't mean that we should not look for partnerships and potential funding sources for a longer term thing, a longer term solution, but also it's something that I think has to be an ongoing discussion with the elected board. So I just want to make that clear that I don't think that just by not doing anything or taking action today, that it precludes us from doing anything in the future and taking action in the future and looking at a possible SAR oriented organization. I mean, again, this. Sorry.
Understand.
Thank you.
great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your input and consideration and discussion and votes on this this agenda item. It is these are some really challenging issues for us.
Nancy?
Yeah.
Can I just make one quick thank you to the members of the public who are here to give us their input, because whatever we do affects them directly, especially when it comes to safety. But I just want everyone to know that it's not the end of the discussion.
Yes, good point.
Thank you.
All right. Now that was agenda item number 9. And we will now move on to item 10, declaring surplus property. Mr. Pruitt, this is your item.
Christian, did you want to handle this or let me do this?
You're welcome to take it from here, Jim.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong at any point that I make. This is concerning the property located over next to the post office in which the district bought for the construction of a new administrative building. In that, we bought 504 Avenue Alhambra that we don't need that lot anymore, and we have no plans for that lot for the Harbor District. Thus, we need to declare it surplus under California law before we can take any other action with respect to transferring the title or selling that property. Right now, there will be no fiscal impact on the property, or declaring the property surplus. And the staff report is very thorough on all the recommendations, and staff is recommending that the board approve the resolution, specifically adopt resolution 2224, declaring pursuant to Government Code Section 4221 that the certain property owned by the district located at 555 Obispo Road, El Granada, California, APN 047-261-040, is surplus land and not necessary for the district's use. Finding that such declaration is exempt from environmental review under California Environmental Quality Act and taking related actions. Stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Jim. We have public comment. John Olaf.
This is just another example of the gross incompetence that has been distributed or demonstrated by this board. So you bought a building that you once were going to buy for 1.8, then you didn't buy it. And then you bought it for 3 million. But meanwhile, you bought a piece of land, which is now surplus. But of course, you bought that piece of land when prices were high. Now is not a good time to be selling anything if anybody can pay attention to the economy. These are the kind of decisions that have led to your being unable to meet one of your core responsibilities. There's a reason why the district doesn't have the money to do what it's promised, what it's supposed to do. That reason is you fund another agency's operations. I mean, consider this. For 12 years straight, the Harbor District's main source of revenue, which is property taxes, has gone nothing but up. Yet things are not better at the harbor. The infrastructure is worse than it was and is getting worse. You now are going to cut out safety operations that you used to be so proud of. And it's in violation of your own code, in violation of your own stated goals. You need to start asking yourself, why is the Harbor District so financially challenged when its finances are in great shape? It's revenue. You're getting more than you've ever gotten, yet you're talking about cutting back. And no one's asking any hard questions. No one's asking, how did we end up in this situation? Why do we end up owning property that we don't need and at the same time cutting safety? Do you not get it?
Commissioners, is there any discussion on this item? Commissioner Chen Crowley.
Jim, can you please remind me, I know it's in here, the year that we bought this?
I don't recall the specific year, but I believe it was 2019.
Yeah, I agree. And that was with a different president at the time. And a different board configuration. So I just want that to be on the record that this board is not, fully responsible for that. I wasn't in favor of the purchase, but anyway, the point is that we are in a situation, but I have a question, Jim, that I just want, if we were to go with your recommendation, would it limit us to what we can or can't do. And I'm
Not
not saying.
Not
Oh, go ahead.
necessarily, it just opens up the availability if we get an offer on it or if we want to sell it. But because the land is, we have no plans for the land, and it's basically, it is surplus land. We need to declare it as surplus land. And then if we want to sell it, we have to first offer it to other agencies to make a bid on it. And if they make a bid and we agree with it, we sell it to that other agency, or we can reject it and move on to the public. Correct, Trish?
But if we didn't do that, and I'm not suggesting that we sell anything right now, I just don't even know what the market conditions are for even doing anything, but I just don't want this to be limiting and for a potential buyer. I just don't know, but that's my concern.
This is we have to do this before any potential buyer can make an offer.
Correct.
Okay.
We have to declare it surplus. We have to offer it to other agencies. And if they pay the appropriate price, we can sell it to them, but we're not required to. And then we can also sell it to the public after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Mathush?
I move that we declare that piece of property surplus.
I'll second that.
If
Any
I could,
discussion?
it's by
Go ahead,
the
Jim.
resolution is what declares it surplus. So the board would have to adopt resolution 2224 declaring pursuant to government code section 54221 that certain property owned by the district located at 555 Obispo Road, El Granada, California, APN 047-261-040 is surplus land and not necessary for the district's use. Finding that such declaration is exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act and taking related actions.
I amend my motion, and that's the motion I was going to make.
And I'll second that.
Motion. Thank you. Great. If there's no discussion, Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Thank you. All that motion carries. We'll move on to agenda item number 11, Division of Boating and Waterways Save Grant Resolution. Jim Pruitt.
Thank you once again. This is great news and are working with the state. Again, we were granted $150,000, but to accept that and use that money for the SAVE grant purposes, we need to pass a resolution authorizing that acceptance. The staff in both Pillar Point and Oyster Point do a remarkable job of identifying boats and getting ownership that are unsafe and dangerous to the environment turned over to the district for proper disposal. And we do very good at it. As a result, the state funds us with that effort. The recommendation is the staff recommends the board authorize acceptance and execution of the California Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Act grant for $150,000 and adopt resolution 2220 and consider with the October 2021 board decision consistent with the October 21 board decision, authorize the general manager to expend DBW SAVE grant monies for the removal of abandoned vessels at Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor up to the allotted previously approved by the Board of Harbor Commissioners via resolution. Standing by for questions.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Mathush?
So moved.
Commissioner Chang Corrali?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Chang Corrali? Your hand's still up?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, Melanie, roll call on this item, please.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryer,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan Corrali.
Aye.
The motion carries. And we'll move on to agenda item number 12, adopt deletion of chapter 20.20, conflict of interest code of ordinance, and replace with, quote, refer to policy 2.1.5, conflict of interest code, unquote. And Julie, this is your item.
Good afternoon, President Ryring, commissioners. On August 17th, the Board of Harbor Commissioners adopted policy 2.1.5 conflict of interest code and directed staff to publish a notice regarding a proposed amendment to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20.20. The adoption of the resolution presented would delete the district's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20.20, and add a referral to the adopted policy that you adopted last board meeting. Staff recommends that you adopt resolution number 22-22.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item, or do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the resolution.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Mathush. Thank you, Commissioner Chan Corrali. If there's no discussion, Melanie, roll call, please.
President Ryer,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Next agenda item is number 13, lease renewal suite 100B. Jim, this is your agenda item.
Good afternoon, and once again, thank you. This is concerning a lease for Suite 100B on the first floor of 504 Avenue Alhambra. The current occupants that had previous leases for this space are still in that space and desire to have a lease with the district now that we own that property. The lease has been reviewed and approved to form by the General Counsel, and it involves two separate individuals that will sign as sole proprietors and be jointly liable for the lease payments. I used the board's direction from previous leases to develop this new lease. It is market value for the square footage. And I recommend the board approve the lease as drafted. The motion would be adopt resolution number 2223, approving a lease agreement by and between the San Mateo County Harbor District as landlord and Jennifer Oliverio and Amanda Borganova, each acting as sole proprietors as tenant.
I'll make that motion to adopt resolution 2223 to approve that lease agreement between the Harbor District and tenants Jennifer Oliverio and Amanda Borganovo.
I'll
as sole
second that.
proprietors.
Or who was that?
I tried to get in a quick one, but you can have it if you want it.
That's great. Commissioner Mathush seconds that. And if there's no discussion, Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryer.
Aye. Thank you. That motion carries unanimously, and we'll move now to agenda item number, I lost my place here, 14. Oh no, we're going to, we've got a couple of consent items that got moved, and we're going to start with those. The first one is number, hold on, let me find my notes. 3. Item number 3 from the consent calendar, and it was pulled by Commissioner Lorenz.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank staff, John and Jim in particular for the work on the RV park. And I've just got a few questions. What we're talking about is this is in the consent agenda, and you all are asking for us to approve the how did you put it? The agreement for the low bid, and I'm happy to see that happening. I'm definitely a fan of this and will vote to approve it, but I've also wanted to pull it out of the consent agenda so the public can hear this. And my question is, once this gets approved and the contractors is hired, how long will it take to get that project going? And then just, I know it's rough approximations, but when will we see it come to fruition?
I think I can answer that best, Commissioner Lorenz. Once the board has, assuming the board is going to approve the low bidder, which of course was pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid. We received 3 bids, and Minerva Construction Inc. was the lowest qualified bidder. Once we approve the bid, I will then draft a contract with that low bidder and send it to them for their review and execution. Then the general manager will execute it. That usually takes a week or so. We will then work with the low bidder and try to get them the notice to proceed as quickly as is possible. So I would anticipate, depending on their ability to put together all of the equipment, et cetera, and their subcontractors, I would anticipate work potentially starting within a couple months, 2 to 3 months.
Fantastic. Thank you, and thanks for a great staff report, Scott. And for members of the public, it's worth having a look at it if you're at all interested. The numbers are there, and also there's some historical references to all the work that happened to make this project come to life, which is not just the district, but Coastal Commission, City of Half Moon Bay, Coastal Conservancy, and we really need to, in my opinion, we need to thank everyone for this great work. Okay, thanks.
Great, and I think that the next item you pulled as well, item number 4.
I did. So let me capture my notes on this. This is the staff report. Hang on a second. Okay. On item number 4 on the pier, I had a question, and it's at the very end of the report. You mentioned permitting from BCDC. So I didn't know that BCDC had anything to do with any jurisdiction for us on the ocean side. Could you comment on that? Do you want me to find it for you?
Yeah.
Looking for it, Ed.
Yeah.
What project was it again?
This is on the consent agenda.
Right.
Hang on.
I have the. But you said it
It's
was on the.
number 4 in capital projects updates in.
Yes, went too far.
And I'll tell you which page. It's on the first portion. It's on page 1 of the report. Oh, maybe page 2. Goes on to page 2. Sorry. It's on page 2. And John, I'd like to commend you on these reports because the format's really fantastic. You highlight in yellow the current new event that we're talking about, but you also keep the history of the project alive by keeping it noted in the whole report. So I really appreciate that. And so in this case, it's on the pier.
I found it, Commissioner Lorenas.
Yeah.
And that's a simple typo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was curious. I thought maybe they snuck over to the coast side.
That should say Coastal Commission.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let me see. There was a few more other things. Right. West Trail. So that's the next one down.
Yes.
Super happy to see that project completed. And what I'm hearing is that as soon as the weather changes and the soil and tides are in our favor, we're going to start doing the restoration. And I've heard from some folks that the district and its consultants will have members of the public involved in helping us with some of the restoration work, which I believe is key to making that survive. And so kudos to you all for making that happen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to completing the planting out on the coastal trail or the West Trail, mainly because we want the plants to be able to retain the soil and protect the soil.
Yep. And what I'm seeing is there's some great plans for it, and I do appreciate it. And then the other Surfers Beach project, which is towards the end of this, the sand replenishment, where again, John, thank you for highlighting these because it's a long project. It's had a long life, and it'd be hard to find the current information without you highlighting it in yellow. And so for the members of the public who didn't have the stamina to go through this report, I'll read it out for you. The schedule now is we're planning for spring 2023 timeframe to begin the phased approach, first completing the eelgrass dredging building components of the project, followed by the Surfers Beach dredging and beach replacement. So the one part of this that's a little worrying is the funding aspect of it. Are we on track to get that funded?
We're continuing to look for grant funding opportunities, but at present, all of them that we have applied for have been unsuccessful. So we're still looking for any potential grant opportunity.
But Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Lorenas, but we continue to look for grant money to help us fund that, which will leave more money in the capital improvement fund. But we do have funding in the capital improvement fund to fund that project, but it may affect the budget. And that's what Julie and I will be working on for the mid-budget review, is how it affects the budget.
Okay, so for members of the public that are concerned about making that happen, it looks like it's on track as far as I can tell. And again, staff, I appreciate all the work you guys have done on this, because it's all for members of the public. It's all here in John's report. It's very well worth having a review of it if you haven't read it. Okay, I think that's it for John's report. So thank you.
Commissioner Lorenas, one other thing I wanted to highlight in there too is the restroom for Tenant Row. The contract's been awarded and an agreement signed, and construction will start the Monday after the Mavericks Festival on October 3rd.
All right.
So that we'll be breaking ground on that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Commissioner Lorenas also pulled item 5.
I did. I just had a few questions about this. if I understand it correctly, we're agreeing to a waiver for low bids. Is that right for this project?
We're agreeing to waive the competitive bid process altogether.
Yes, that's
We-
what I meant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because to me, it seems a little unusual.
Sure. There is a process where it allows, in our policy, it allows the harbor commissioners to waive the competitive process. Currently, we have Think Connected as our IT consultant. And our IT consultant is very knowledgeable of all the data infrastructures. They support all our products right now. So we have a whole bunch of different separate processes that we go through in order to do our calendaring and our communications and our email. And so there's about 4 or 5 different products that we're currently using. This is to take all that data from those 5 different products and put it all in Microsoft 365. And in order to do that, somebody, if we did go out to bid, that somebody would have to be taught to learn where that data lives and get permissions from our IT consultant, Think Connected, to bring that data into the systems that they're already managing. And it would take a lot of staff time, in addition to having our IT consultants currently involved in it. So it seems like the best use of resources, human resources, is to waive that competitive bid process and use our IT consultant that's already familiar with all of that information and can best access it to do so. We have negotiated the price down. They started at $54,000 and we negotiated it down to 33. And we have looked at, what other organizations might charge. So this is in line with that. So we did do a little bit of analysis of that cost, and we think that it would be a fair cost for what we're asking to do.
That was a great answer. Thank you very much. And I
You're
completely
welcome.
agree with you. Thanks.
Commissioner Chang
Thanks.
Crowley, you have your hand raised?
Yes, so for item, was it 5? It's an action item, so I will move to approve amendment of the 33,150 to the Think Connected Professional Services Agreement for the addition of project management services for the implementation of Microsoft Office 365 and authorize the general manager to execute and waive competitive procurement processes.
I'll second.
Unless there's any discussion, Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Shane Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Ryrie,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
The motion carries, and those 3 items that were pulled by Commissioner Lorenz, we've dealt with, and now we have item 6. Yeah,
Chair Nancy, do we need to vote on number 3?
let me see if that's actionable.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Zemke.
pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the low bidding construction contractor Minerva Construction for the Pillow Point Harbor RV Park restroom and green space project for an amount not to exceed $2,873,000 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in the capital expenditure appropriations of $3,169,300 to be funded by available working capital.
I will second that.
Thank you. And if I don't see any hands raised, we'll move to roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Chencaroli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Reiering,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. And now we'll move to item number
6.
six that was pulled by Commissioner Jane Crowley.
Yes, thank you. So I actually pulled number 6 and number 7, and I know we're going to take them one by one, but they kind of, in my mind, go hand in hand. And I don't know, it's the fee waiver and in general as a concept and principle, and especially for the item number 7. But Jim, I'm kind of in this mindset that we just can't continue to waive these fees, right? And I mean, waiving is one thing, and having partial payment or whatever you want to call it is another. But I don't understand. I just feel like these two, I've seen from what I've read that these two permittees have been treated a little differently. But for number 6, am I correct in reading that really all of their fees have been waived? Is that correct for this walk at Oyster Point? It's not the application fee, which is $305, but the other fee of the permit fee of $105.
You're correct on waiving of the permit fee after the application fee's been paid, is my understanding. And then we're waiving the other portion. And
so why are we doing that?
That recommendation was made because going back, in past events, we have always waived that amount for nonprofits. And this is another nonprofit doing a 5K walk at Oyster Point Marina.
Okay.
And it's the same for number 7.
Well, yeah, but it's a little bit different in terms of the amount. I can understand $105 versus almost $6,000, right? I mean, there's a big difference. And here we are, trying to deal with finding money to help us, with water safety, for example, right? So I don't know. I'm just having a heartache about waiving all of these right now, especially when we're trying to make sure that we have revenue. And I understand that they're nonprofits if I look at number 6, but $105, I mean, maybe it's nothing to us too, but I don't know. It's just a philosophical issue, especially when you juxtapose it to number 7. And I know we have to take these separately, but you've already waived the $105 permit fee, right?
That's I have the authority to waive that, and the thing that we're asking is to approve the permit.
Right, I know, but we have, I guess like I said, I have a problem with it in light of number 7, just because, I mean, I think we need to have a better look at our policies. I mean, I know that, we have a policy of dealing with this from a nonprofit perspective, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we're not just giving things away too, and especially in light of item number 9, which was discussed earlier. And I don't know if this requires a meeting just for this, or fee waivers and permit waivers, and I don't know. I mean, you've already done it for number 6, and so I guess we can approve that. I mean, it's already been done, but let's say it doesn't pass. I mean, how would you go back to the nonprofit? I mean, would you say you got to pay up because the board said no. I mean, it kind of puts us in an embarrassing position, I think.
I'm okay going back and saying the board did not waive the fee and override my decision. The only reason I did that waiver is following past precedent by the board and the district. But if the board wants to change that this afternoon, I'm okay with that. I don't have any objections to that, and I will go back and collect that fee.
Okay, and I'm just thinking it through out loud right now too. So, I mean, I'm happy to listen to other commissioners' thoughts on this. Because number 7 is, the item 7 is the one that's giving me a real heartache.
Commissioner Lorenz, you have your hand raised?
I do indeed. Thank you. Well, first, let me remind the board that this board approved the Mavericks Festival, which is actually a for-profit organization, and we approved fee waivers for them.
Well, I think we approved a waiving part of the fee
Yeah.
with a very clear recommendation that we revisit the idea of waiving those fees at all next year. And I think
Right.
that the reason we did, and if my recollection is right, we waived some fees during the pandemic because we were really concerned about a certain nonprofits' bottom line, and the fees were small. But I do share Commissioner Chancarelli's concern about this very large fee waiver, because I expect it's because it's sorry.
Well, the point is that we did not
Because
waive 100% of the fees for Mavericks.
It's a water related event, which means that we incur real expenses for it, like we do with the Mavericks competition. And
We're
especially,
not on that item yet, Nancy. We're still on item 6.
okay, well then I'll hold on to that.
But getting to Commissioner Lorenz's comment, we didn't waive 100% for Mavericks.
Right.
And it was somewhat conditional on next year. That was their first year really to have this at the harbor. That's very different from these items.
Nevertheless, the fees were waived, and in my
Not
opinion,
100%.
noted.
So anyway, this is a different time. I do support the board discussing our policy on this at a future date. With regard to this agenda item, Commissioner Chancarelli, are you considering making a motion on this item, or did you just want to bring up your concern?
Well, I mean, we have to approve, and we have to approve the fee, the permit waiver of $105. Is that right? $105. That's for item 6.
President Ryring, just to clarify, I think the agenda item is to approve the permit, but that the general manager said he had the ability to waive within his authority. So I don't think this agenda item's asking for approval of the waiver of the fee.
Right, that's already been
That's
done.
correct, but I mean, he has the authority. He's already waived it. Trish, he's already waived it. So it's basically to approve the athletic event permit for the 5K, right,
Correct.
at Oyster Point.
Correct.
Basically with the waiver of the fee because it's already been done.
Correct.
All right, so if I understand correctly, you have pulled this item to raise your concern about a continuation of fee waivers.
Right, and so we don't have to necessarily, I mean, we don't have to, I don't know if y'all want to table this until we finish discussing the other item, item 7, which is very similar to this item. I mean, Tricia, what can we do? Can we table this until after discussing number 7?
At the chair's discretion, you could consider both items at the same time.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Right, but
As for delaying number 7, the event is on October 29th, and they would need to have approval for the event sooner than later so that they can plan and advertise.
Yeah, but I understand that. So they're gonna have, so are you saying, okay, so can we move on to number 7 then in conjunction with Trisha? I don't want to upset the process. The number 7 is like I said, the item that's giving me the heartache. I understand they have to plan, but are they planning? Because they're going to have $6,000 worth of fees completely waived? Because what if we didn't waive any or part of it? How does that affect their planning? And I agree with Commissioner Ryring or President Ryring that the water part of this forces us to use resources. And we waived their fees twice already in 2018 and 2020. But right now we're in a different financial position with different needs as well. I just don't think we can continue to waive $6,000 worth of fees. That's for that item. But I mean, there's a bigger picture too, because it's almost a philosophical issue. I mean, maybe it's something that we have to discuss later on. But I know that there's a time crunch here, but I am not actually ready to waive the $5,880. I'm okay with waiving the $105 for the 2 right now until we can look at this, especially since one of them has been waived for number 6 for the 5K. And if we're going to do the same, if we're going to waive the fees for one, we should do the same and keep it consistent for the other. But you're also asking us, Jim, for item number 7 to waive $5,775. The $5,880 would include the 105. So if you want to separate the 105 from the $5,775, I'm happy to waive that for now, the 105 for both. The motion for number 7, I think, is for the entire amount, and I'm ready. I can divide the question between the $5,775 waiver and the $105, which if we were to waive the $105 this year for both, that would be consistent for both parties. So I'm not sure, Trisha, how this motion could be made. I mean, can I make a motion for both of those items to waive the $105 permitting fee this year for items 6 and 7?
So, and this, again, it's at the chair's discretion. I think the clearest thing to do would be, we have received a staff report on item 6, the first item, the 5K item. And so to complete the discussion on that and take a vote and then move on to the next item. That
Well,
way.
you just said that we can discuss them both together, and I think they go together.
Yeah.
If we're going to do one policy to waive the $105 permit fee for both, then let's do that. But I'm not going to do I'm not going to waive necessarily without discussion the $5,775, which is included in the recommendation by the general manager to waive that plus the additional 105. So that's why I would need to divide the question for item 7. So if you think it's easier to take item 6 separately, I'm happy to make the motion to waive the 105 permit fee for the 5K for item 6 for this year. And then I'm happy to divide the question for item 7 for the fee waiver plus the $5,075. Does that make it easier for and legal? I mean, I'm sure it's legal.
That take item number 6 first.
Okay.
And I can read that. The motion is to approve the athletic event permit for the 5K walk to be held at Oyster Point Marina on Saturday, November 12th, 2022.
Yes, that is your written motion. Okay. So if
the $105 was already waived by me.
Right.
So you don't have to discuss it.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but I don't want to leave it just at this. So, and then to just sweep this whole permit fee waiver under the rug all the time, right? Because I don't,
So,
I think
Virginia,
we have to have a bigger discussion on that in general, but I'm willing to make this, I'm ready, I'm willing to vote on this motion for this year only.
So Virginia, one of the things that would be productive is to consider during your commissioner comments, bringing up the idea of adding a discussion of policy regarding permitting fees at a
Okay.
future agenda item.
Okay, then I'll make that, I'll make that motion to approve the athletic event permit for the 5K walk to be held at Oyster Point Marina on Saturday, November 12th, 2022.
I will second that.
Commissioner
As is
Lorenz, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was going to pull this also for, I agree, it's a good idea to tighten up our policy on waiving fees. We've waived this for this nonprofit before, and it's for a very good reason. Brings a lot of folks from all over the Bay Area and elsewhere to this community. It's an event that brings water safety and water knowledge to the public. It serves many purposes here, and so I'm not in agreement that we should not waive their fee. There's a lot of benefit that this organization brings.
So we have a motion and a second, and if no further comments, Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lorenz,
No,
is this for this is for item 6 though, right?
Yes, which is
Yeah.
to continue to have the athletic event as it is, so the fee's already been waived.
okay, so yes.
President Ryrie,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Aye.
That motion carries, and we'll move on to the next pulled item on the consent calendar, which is item number 7.
And if I can correct the motion and following the guidance or discussion made by Commissioner Chang Corrali, it would read, approve the athletic event permit for the Northern California Outrigger Canoe Association Wave Chaser Paddleboard Series Kayak and Canoe event to be held on October 29, 2022, and waive the $105 fee.
Right, okay, so I am fine with that motion. But there's the other piece to this, right? The $5,775, which I hope that we will discuss. So if your motion, if the motion is to just waive the $105 fee, which would be consistent with the other nonprofit, then yes, I will make that motion. Is there a second?
I'm confused.
The motion is to basically waive the $105 permit fee for this. Here, let me read you the
I
motion.
thought that was the motion that we just voted on.
That
No,
was for
this
number
is item
6.
7.
Oh, okay. So now, okay, so we are on item number 8 now, and
No,
No, item 7.
we're still on 7.
No, we were on 6 before.
Oh, you're right.
Right, so let me. So the motion would be to approve this event with, and have the permit fee for $105 to be waived. Which still leaves the balance. Yeah, just that's the motion. And is that what you were saying, Jim?
Yes, the recommended motion I'm suggesting is approve the athletic event permit for the Northern California Outrigger Canoe Association Wave Chaser Paddle Series Kayak and Canoe event to be held on October 29, 2022, and to waive the $105 fee only.
Okay.
Right.
And
And
so
that's the motion, and that is, just so you know, this is not to be confused with the original motion or the original recommendation which is to waive the whole 5,880. So what Jim is saying is that we're only going to do waive the 105.
Right, so that, and Jim, you feel that that motion is explicit enough regarding the fact that we are not, the commission does not wish to waive the fee.
The waiver of the $5,000 fee was not mentioned in the motion, so yes.
But we are going to discuss that after this motion, correct, Jim? Nancy, I think I think there has to be a second motion for that. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be
Great,
2 motions instead of 1.
great. Okay. All right, so do we have a
I've
second
made
for
that motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Well, first, I'd like to point out that the commission has not voted on whether or not to waive the fee. So it's not correct to say that the commission has decided to not waive the fee.
That's correct. When I asked that question, it was clarified that in fact, we're going to have a second look at that fee.
Okay.
This motion only addresses the first part.
Okay, so we're voting on the first part and we're going to have a discussion on the second part. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second, and we're ready to have a roll call, Melanie?
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. And now Commissioner Jane Corrali. It's up to you.
Yes, so this is the part, the remainder of the original 5,880. So that's going to be $5,775 that has been requested by this organization to be waived. And that is, what is exactly the $5,775 for? It says because this is an additional fee because if it's a water related event. Is Jim, I'm just trying to, is this for our staff or what?
The fee and rates and fee schedule approved by the board approved this fee for a level of events for water events. And it does, it's for additional staff that has to be out on the water for the events and cover the cost the district incurs.
So I'm not ready to waive 100% of the $5,775. I would rather not waive any of it, or let's figure out if, we can waive a portion of it. But I mean, we have to pay for our staff, and we just got through with item number 9, dealing with, the fact that we're not paying for our great staff to help with these, and just to waive almost $6,000 worth of fees makes no sense to me.
Well, I'll just say that I do agree with you. If you want to make a motion on the item, you have my vote.
Well, I just don't know, Jim, maybe you can give me some more color on the percentage of what you think might be great. I'm not going to do 100. I can't do 100%. I mean, we've done 100% for the last 2 times they've had this. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, the alternative that you've put in here are to not waive the full fee of, actually now it's 5,775, or waive a portion of it. And so when you said waive a portion of it, did you have a percentage in mind?
I did not. But looking at it and considering it, it wouldn't be too far off by waiving 50% of the fee.
And Jim, are you saying that just because in the recent past during the pandemic, we have been pretty quick to waive fees?
I don't know, I wouldn't use the word pretty quick. I would be going back, it's been the practice of this board to waive the fees for nonprofits. And the canoe that have water-related activities attached to it or supports our mission. And this California Outrigger Canoe Association supports water safety and gets people out on the water and access to the water. So the district supports both of those issues, and it's related to the district's mission. So waiving the 100% of the fees has always been the practice of this board in the past, but we can change that practice at any time.
I think it would be good to have a discussion about it, especially when it's a water-related event that costs the district time and personnel and equipment and especially considering our budgets. I mean, it might be good when you make your motion, Virginia, or I may add a friendly amendment to ask that we look at, if we look at all of the fees that we've waived over the past 5 years, do they amount to much, or maybe they don't? You know, maybe we're making something out of this that's insignificant. I just don't know. Commissioner Lorenz?
Yes. I agree with our general manager, Jim. This is a water-related event. It's consistent with our mission as a harbor district. We are a public entity. One of our mission goals is to bring members of the public to this area, teach them about water safety, encourage them to do human-powered craft uses. It's totally consistent with our mission. It's a nonprofit organization. They spend a lot of time doing outreach and also safety. So I'm in complete favor of waiving the complete fee.
So do we have a motion on this item?
No motion on the table.
Not yet. So, I just, after our discussion with item number 9, I mean, you can fit anything into our mission, and I do love our mission. But I also think that we have to compensate our employees and to make sure that, tax dollars are being spent wisely. So, I mean, I'm happy to make the motion for a 50% waiver because, I think that it might ease the pain for the organization, but I do think that we need to have a discussion on any policies that we're looking at for fees, and especially in light of item number 9 and other potential employee compensation issues. Anyway, there's a member of the public who has her hand raised, Nancy.
Yes, Catherine Slater Carter, would you like to speak?
Oh, we can hear you. Oh, now we can't.
Unmute. Good.
There.
I think both sides are making very good points. I would suggest that you waive the entire fee. I agree with Ed, but with Commissioner Lorenz, but I also think that a letter from the organization that you can include with grant funding or applications to support in how you are supporting your mission on bringing people to the ocean and water safety and all the good things that this kind of event includes would be a very positive thing, so that you're not just one of many organizations, but you're the one who encourages local activities and bringing people to the ocean and supporting water safety, all of which you do. So that's, thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Commissioner Crawley, you have your hand up.
sorry. I would like to make the motion to approve a fee waiver in the amount of $2,887.50, which is 50% of the $5,775 for the Northern California Outrigger Canoes Association Wave Chaser Paddle Series event. So it'd be a 50% waiver.
Do we have a second? Well, I'll second it. We'll see if it'll die on the floor or live. Any discussion? Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Zemke,
You're
Commissioner
muted.
Zemke, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I vote no.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chankrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
I vote no.
President Ryder.
Aye, the motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now we have, we're finished with the hold consent items, and we do have a closed session conference with real property negotiators, and I hope all of the commissioners have their links available.
Item
so that
14,
we can-
President Ryring.
Pardon me?
Item 14, we haven't covered.
Oh, yeah, I wanted, if it's okay, I was gonna get to that after the closed session, just because it's really the very, very last thing, but if I need to do that first, we can. Doesn't matter.
I mean, don't we have to come back into open session?
We do,
We do, and the president can move it to the after the closed session.
yep. Sorry, I'm going out of order here.
Do we need to extend our time? Because it's 10 to 4.
Our time goes to 5.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah?
sorry. I don't know why I thought 4, but okay, so we have time.
All right, is everybody ready to go to closed session then?
Okay.
See you there.
What, do we have another link for closed session? I don't think
We
I
do.
got.
Got a link
Melanie
from
sent a
Julie.
Melanie sent a closed session link to all of the commissioners at 11:29 a.m. this morning. And the subject line is all caps closed session link.
I don't think I got that, so let me go take a look, but I'll leave and come, I'll leave and
see
look
you.
for it.
I see you, and it went to both your Harbor address and your personal address.
Okay, I only got the regular link, but I'll take a look. Thanks.
Yeah. Looks like everybody. All right. Thank you. We are back from closed session with nothing to report on our conference with real property negotiators. And on the
Commissioner
discussion.
Ryring, I would just like to note that Commissioner Mathush is not in the meeting at this time.
Thank you. And we'll move on to discussion item number 14. Authorize public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. Do I have a motion?
Also move.
Second. Melanie, roll call, please. Oh, we don't, oh yeah, there she is.
Hi, yeah, I think it looks like we're also missing Commissioner Chankrali.
Oh, we are.
But we can take roll call. Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes.
And let's see, do we have any commissioner comments? I know that Commissioner Chang Crowley had a potential future agenda item, so maybe I will raise.
Wait a
it.
minute. She ended up she's in the let me
She's a
bring her back in.
participant.
Mhm.
Looks like Jim just called her.
I'm trying to promote her back into, there she goes.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Chang Crowley.
We'll link to this anyway.
We just approved item number 14.
Yeah, so I'm voting yes too.
Authorizing the public meetings, and no commissioners had comments to make, and we're on F, future agenda items, and I think you have one.
I do. I would like to take a look at our policies on fee permits for events again. Just, I mean, or tighten it up or something. I mean, just not the application fee, but like what we were experiencing with one of the consent items, item number 7.
Let's discuss that. Let's put that up on a future agenda, Jim.
If I can make a recommendation that we review the rates and fees as they apply to events,
Yeah,
because that is on our rates and fee schedule.
that'd be great. And can we also look at what over the past couple of years, I'd like to see 5 years if we could.
That'll be part of it, but the board has to vote for me to be able to put that on the agenda.
Okay, great. Melanie, let's take a roll call on that.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye.
Great, that motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
President Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Yes.
That
Aye.
motion carries. Thank you, everyone. That was a great
All right.
meeting, a lot of good discussion. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Take care.